Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Red Devils for your latest Manchester United news. Amorim's biggest test yet in the Manchester United managerial position with the first big playoff game, quarterfinal tonight against Tottenham, and an opportunity for United to go on a run. We keep talking about it. When are we going to see that potential run that could potentially change the entire season and change everything really at United? And beating Manchester City last weekend, the team will be full of confidence, a confidence they probably haven't had in over 12 months, to be honest, because the last time we had a moment like this was the FA Cup final. But since then, we've had a lot of lows and very few highs. Now, after having been able to come back from Manchester City last weekend, we'll be going into this clash away at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, knowing that we can get a result and that we can go the distance, to be honest. And, why not? At the end of the day, go out and play with a bit of fearlessness tonight. There's absolutely nothing to lose, everything to gain in tonight's clash. I mean, we're talking a little bit about Ruben Amorim's press conference. He spoke a little bit more. There was sort of an embargoed section, stuff like that, and that's sort of those quotes come out. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well as kind of what we expect to see in the clash tonight. Before we do that, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. So the press conference, as expected, was kind of dominated by Marcus Rashford and the entire sort of Rashford situation. And he very much tried to sort of veer the press conference away from the Marcus Rashford issue and focus more a bit on Tottenham. But as you can imagine, the news is bigger really with the Rashford news than sometimes even the Tottenham game, to be honest, because that is kind of the modern football day. You got to look at sort of trends and what is sort of very much a newsworthy, and Marcus Rashford leaving is, especially in transfer news. Transfer news always tends to sell more than your generic sort of United versus Tottenham quarterfinal in the League Cup. Even if this was United versus Liverpool or United versus City, it still probably wouldn't hold the weight of a big transfer and the likes, because that's what everybody likes to read. Everybody's sort of very obsessed when it comes to transfers and the likes. But the main thing is, for example, who are we going to see tonight? Now, the big thing is Garnacho and Rashford. And we're sort of going to wait and have to see how Garnacho responded, for example, whether he's going to be involved tonight, and what the final call is going to be with regards to getting him back into the squad, and whether we'll see either Rashford or Garnacho. In terms of some team news, not good news. Mason Mount, for example, he won't be available today. We're not entirely sure how long he's not going to be available for, because he hasn't seen the specialist yet. We haven't got feedback from the specialist. I think you'll see the specialist yesterday, so we haven't had a chance to speak to Ruben Amorim since he's seen the specialist on when Mason Mount is in his injury, what the injury is, for example, and how long it could be. So I don't think it's any good news at the end of the day. You look at the reaction of players usually know. They've played the game for long enough. They've been involved in elite sport for long enough. They are usually very aware when they receive bad injury news and when they feel there's a bad injury. And the reaction that Mason Mount had when he sort of went down looked kind of on the verge of tears. And even speaking to Ruben Amorim, he was saying very sad afterwards the game, very sad in the change room. We expect that to be quite a long-term injury. I think that's why he was so frustrated, because he spent such a long time on the injury front and then just came back and got a new injury. There's a bit of good news when it comes to Garnacho, where Ruben Amorim has admitted that the player was apparently quite upset with him, but he has responded really well. So he was asked, how's Alejandro reacted to this point of not being in the squad in Sunday? Have you spoken to him? And he said as follows. He said, really good. He said, trained really well. He said, he seems a little upset with me, and that is perfect. I was really, really happy because I would do the same, and he is ready for this game. So we'll see at the end of this training. Hopefully, again, it's about channeling that emotion. So you're very upset about it. Go and prove him wrong. That's what Amorim wants. Amorim wants the player to be angry. He wants the player to be upset that he's been left out. And when the player plays, he wants him to go and score a goal. And even if he runs up to Ruben Amorim and shoots him in the face, I think Amorim will sit there saying, yeah, there we go. Prove me wrong. I've got this view of you. Go and prove me wrong. Go and show me that I was wrong. And, those are the mistakes you want to have. You want to be sitting there going, oh, I shouldn't have dropped him. Well, guess what? He's just scored a hat-trick, for example. So, Garnacho needs to go out tonight and try and prove Amorim wrong. Because he does that by getting a man-of-the-match performance. He does that by going and scoring goals. He does that by going on a run and becoming a key part of the side. And it's a bit of a no-lose situation for Amorim, because if he plays him and he doesn't perform well and he drops him, for example, then he needs to be justified. The only way that Garnacho can show that Amorim is wrong is if he starts playing really well, starts scoring goals, which is beneficial to the team, which is then beneficial for the Amorim. So this is the thing. It's a bit of a gamble because you don't want to ostracize one of your key players, and you don't want somebody like Garnacho, who's one of the most talented players in the squad, and potentially one of our most valuable players. You don't want to sort of ostracize him and all of a sudden get into a situation where he wants to leave. But you've got to try and get the best out of him, and you got to try different things. And sometimes dropping a player, for example, can bring the best out of them because they want to react. And we'll wait and see exactly. But it kind of also shows you the character at the end of the day. If Garnacho gets dropped, comes back, plays really well, and goes on a run, then you sit there saying, right, well, there we go. He's got the character where he can take being dropped and he can channel that into positive energy, as opposed to some players when they get dropped and they sulk and they go on social media and they start doing everything you shouldn't be doing when you get dropped. And all that it does is that proves to the manager that you're not really worth part of the squad and that you're everything that they thought that you were, and you're waste space, etc., etc. So yeah, it's not something you can do often. You can't just sit there dropping players all the time and then hoping they'll respond and be like, oh cool, I'm right, etc. But every now and again, players sometimes need a bit of a rude awakening, and just to be shown that listen, your place is not guaranteed. I will drop you if I feel I should. And that's what sometimes the players need as well, is that they need to know that they've got to be on it all the time to continue warranting selection, and that you've got to continuously fight for your place on the side, which I think has been a problem at United, where I think there's just not been enough talent to really warrant players having to fight for their squad because for their place. They sit there saying, well, there's literally nobody better than me, so I'm not even worried, which is not anywhere where you want to be honest. And you don't want to be in a situation where players can feel very, very, very comfortable. So yeah, but let's go to some of the team news for tonight. So in terms of injuries for United against Spurs, obviously no Luke Shaw, and we wait to find out what the latest is on Anissa Masraoui in terms of who will be available tonight. But no Mason Mount officially. And he was asked about an indication, and he said there's no indication he was seeing a specialist. It was yesterday, so hopefully today we might be able to get a bit more of an update. But he said the following. He said he was really sad, and in the dressing room, he was really, really sad. So we need to help him. Like I said, when a player is in this moment with a lot of injuries, then training, and in this kind of schedule, a schedule without many training sessions with all the squad to make the load what he really needs, we try to do a lot of exercise, but it's not the same. It's hard when you have to maintain the load. And that's a big point. When you're playing games so often, you don't have as many training sessions, and as a result, for example, players don't get to maybe build up to that full fitness that you want ideally before you start playing games, and that could very well be what happened with Mason Mount, to be honest. But it doesn't look good for him, unfortunately. In terms of how bad, well, we have to wait and see. But it won't be available tonight, and I don't think will be available this month, to be honest. I think we'll probably only see him in the new year. Based on the reaction from the player, it looked pretty serious. And unfortunately for him, at the moment, he continues to be a really poor signing for United, given just the fact that he hasn't been able to stay fit and go on a run. And he's somebody that a lot of people are talking about the fact should really fit into the system really well, and should be a really big part of the Ruben Amorim sort of revolution, inverted commas. But he's got to stay fit. He's got to find a way of going on a run, staying in this team, and starting to prove how he can fit into the system. And at the moment, he just can't stay fit. So at the moment, it's a bad signing. It could be a good signing in the long run, but we need a lot more games out of him, don't we? And it's going to be a case of how many games can you afford? How many games can you afford to give him, whilst sort of trying to find that form, versus other players, for example, that need chances. For example, we've not seen Christian Eriksen at all. You've seen, I think, in his first game. I don't think you've seen him since then, which is quite frustrating from an Eriksen point of view, because I mean he was so good for a while before he came in. And yeah, something I wanted to. There was an article I wanted to look at. I just can't find where it is here. No, can't find it over here. No, it's gone. All right, so never mind that. But yeah, so I mean, in terms of Spurs, there are a couple of injuries for Spurs, and so it is a bit of a depleted Spurs side, and that suits United quite well. So not complaining there at all. But it's also a Spurs side that know how to score lots of goals. So United's defense will really be tested tonight. I think it's a big game for Harry Maguire tonight, assuming he does start, because I thought that he came on. Well, he came into the side last weekend, had a really, really strong game, and we're into a very important 6 months. Harry Maguire said that he wants to stay at United. Obviously, he wants to stay at United in a good way. He's one of the best clubs in the world. And, chances are if he leaves, he's not going to the same caliber of club. So he obviously wants to stay at United. Now, United sort of listed him apparently as one of the players that they're willing to lose in the summer. But so that means it's a big 6 months. If he goes on and really starts to kick on and put in the big performances, he might yet get that contract extension that he wants. If he doesn't, then we need to move him on. But the main thing is, at the moment, last weekend, played really, really well. Looked very good in the system of a 3, and I think he will suit that system. The question remains, if he starts to play well, if he really does suit the system, would you sell him? Would you look to keep him? What do you think? What is the right who has had? He's a very mercurial player, isn't he? He can have really, really bad moments, but he can also put in some really good performances. And we've seen runs from Maguire throughout his career where he's played really, really well, but then makes a couple of big mistakes and then he has a couple of bad performances. So he's had a bit of an up and down career, and I mean, I'd really like to see him, end up with a half decent United career. I think he's a guy who's had to deal with a lot of criticism. Some of it warranted, some of it not warranted. To be honest, I think a lot of the criticism he gotten over the past was really blown out of proportion. I think there's certain players who can get away with the mistakes and not get the criticism, and he's somebody who makes any mistakes, then he gets far too much criticism, to be perfectly honest, and he's just become a bit of a meme and the whole kind of meme culture and stuff like that. So he's had to deal with a lot of abuse, and I think he's dealt with it really, really well as a player and as a person. I've been very impressed with how, as a character, he's sort of come through a lot of adversity, and this, I think, will be a big moment in his career. If he can come through this and go on a bit of a run and stay in Ruben Amorim's side, then I think it puts a big feather in his cap, and I think it shows people that they were wrong to write him off so early. And I hope he does. As I said, because as a person, he seems to be a really nice guy. Works really hard. Gets involved with the charity. Very quiet off the pitch and stuff like that. Likes to stay away from the media, apart from the Mykonos incident. But since then, he's been really, really quiet. And you want to see people like that succeed. But the main thing is just we need him to start putting together performances. I'd be very interested to see if we see Lenny Yoro tonight. Obviously, didn't see him. We didn't start against City. So it could be potentially coming into the side tonight. Very interested to see what the team looks like tonight, to be honest, because once again, it's a game 4 days later, but it's a game where we have to play our strongest side. We've got to get a result tonight. Ruben Amorim was very upfront when he came in about the fact that we're not going to contest for the league for another 2 to 3 years. But the main thing is to sort of work your way back up the table, become more competitive whilst winning trophies. And he's very aware of the fact that he has to win trophies. He has to keep picking up silverware. And the Carabao Cup, when you're in a quarterfinal, it offers you a big opportunity. We're now, first of all, further in this competition than any other tournament or competition that we're currently in. And, the final's in, I think, February. So you go on a run and you try and target this Carabao Cup and you can go and get that, all of a sudden you could have silverware very early in the season, kind of really tick the box of that, and then use that confidence going into the rest of the season. I think Europa League offers a very big opportunity for United. The FA Cup's already looking like quite a stretch given the fact that we've drawn Arsenal away in the first round. But the Carabao Cup and the Europa League probably offer United the best 2 chances at silverware, and therefore we've got to go all out for them. All out. Because why not? Spurs, look, it's still a lot of good teams in the Carabao Cup. Liverpool's still in it. I think Arsenal's still in it, as well as Newcastle. So it's a good quarterfinals, to be fair. It is. And the kickoff tonight, by the way, is at 8 o'clock. It is at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We saw Arsenal beat Palace 3-2 last night. So that was a pretty big result. And Newcastle, after beating Chelsea in the last 16, they then beat Brentford last night. So and Liverpool beating Southampton as well at 2-1. So at the moment, it's Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, the 3 that we sort of expected to go through have gone through. The question is United or Tottenham. So it's going to be a really good semi-final clash, regardless of what happens tonight. We got to put ourselves in that mix though, and you want to play against Newcastle ideally, and then go to Wembley. And United have got a pretty decent record when it comes to Wembley. Obviously, we've had so much success there in the past. Get to Wembley, get the fans to Wembley. It also that really puts you behind the manager. Getting to a final, for example, that Wembley trip, that silverware on the line, walking out, being able to play for a trophy. It's great experience for the players, great experience for the manager and the squad to be in those situations. It gives you so much confidence. So I think tonight's actually really, really important. It might not be the most coveted competition, but what it could do for the squad if you were to win it cannot be overstated. So need to go out and try and really, really go for it. And I mean, it's an interesting thing. It's not. It's probably the smallest trophy you can win this season. I think I'd rather win an FA Cup than the Europa League. In all honesty, yes, one is a European trophy, but the FA Cup has got that history to it. So it's an interesting one where the League Cup stands in terms of what do you want to win? League Cup versus FA Cup versus. At the end of the day, I think United fans, we can't really be picky, can we? For me, the biggest part of the Erik ten Hag tenure was the fact that we were really poor. We won 2 trophies in 2 seasons, and we sort of kept picking up trophies despite being in a bad situation. Now, for example, would you prefer to be an Arsenal fan where Arsenal have consistently been in the Champions League, consistently been in the title race, but they won 1 trophy under Arteta? I think it was 2021 now, just as he came in, and some people even saying they flipped it. I think it's a bit harsh, but would you rather be contesting for the league, not winning trophies, or not contesting the league, not being in the Champions League, but winning trophies? I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, to be honest, because I miss being in the Champions League. Nobody wants to be playing in the Europa League. We want to be in the top 4. We are a Champions League club. We want those European nights. But we also want trophies. We also want to keep adding to the trophy cabinet. And the League Cup's not necessarily the trophy you want to keep adding, but it is a trophy at the end of the day. It is a major honour. The FA Cup's fantastic. If you can keep winning FA Cups every couple of seasons, then life is pretty good as you try and sort of build your way into the league. And that's the main thing when it comes to cup competitions, is that they are so different to the league. Cups are easier to win. You can go on a run. You can have a once-off great team. You can have a couple of good draws. It's far easier to win a cup than it is the league, which is, good performances week in, week out, no real sort of space to drop off. And the consistency is probably what United have lacked for so many years. We haven't been able to replicate consistent performances throughout the season, which is why we've been so poor in the league. But United, and especially this team, has got that one-off performance in it. We saw against City. 2 league losses on, lose to Nottingham Forest, go down 1-0 against City at the Etihad, and come back to win 2-1. This team has that kind of one-off performance in them. They've got that ability to play above themselves in particular occasions. The FA Cup match, the final against City. Again, not favourites. Shouldn't probably have won that on paper, but we can pick ourselves up for those one-off occasions. So there's definitely a certain amount of fighting spirit in the side. And that's the interesting thing. Because we talk about a lack of mentality in the side. I don't think there is. I think there is. We talk about a lack of leadership. We talk about a lack of mentality. But what's weird is that a side where mentality and leadership is often questioned, they've got some really big moments in them. They've got that comeback against City. They've got the FA Cup final win. It's a weird situation where it's a side which can't go on a run, can't find a consistency, and yet can sometimes produce magic in the big moments and can go in these runs where we, in the cup competitions, I mean, we've been in 2 finals in 2 seasons, or 3 finals in 2 seasons, 1, 2, and it's difficult to then go and say there's no leadership, there's no players, there's no match winners or whatever in a side which has won 2 trophies in the last 2 seasons. So the biggest sort of conundrum is working out why can that not translate into consistency? Is it a lack of depth? Is it a lack of knowledge or experience in terms of going on the league run and being able to sort of string together performances consistently? Why can United not find consistency? That's the big question. I don't really know the answer, to be perfectly honest. It's something which, how many United managers have been trying to work out, put their finger on, just why United can't find that consistency, why they can't continue to get results on a week-to-week basis. Even when we go on a mini run, 2-3 games, we'll lose to a team we shouldn't be losing to. I'd love to know what the longest winning streak we've had in the last 2 years is, because I'll be very surprised if it's more than 4 or 5 games. So that's the very big frustration when it comes to United. But yeah, we'll talk about that all a bit later in the match reaction. So make sure you come and join us on the channel tonight after the game. Please do smash the like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. And we'll see you guys all next